Welcome back to the Road to 1 Million podcast. Today I'm back with Daniel from Dynamic Detailing. And today Daniel's going to be talking to us about how 2025 went. Daniel came on the show in November of 2024. So we've got a lot to catch up on. Their shop went through a series of changes last year. And we'll talk a little bit about working with dealerships in the beginning of the podcast. And then we're going to talk a lot about sales in this podcast as well. Daniel comes from a sales background, so he's naturally gifted in sales, and he actually has a full-time sales guy on his staff. Not that all of us are in a position to where we can hire a full-time sales guy, but there's a lot to be learned from Daniel and from what they're doing over at Dynamic Detailing. And so I hope this gets your wheels spinning and thinking a little bit more about our sales processes. Daniel's shop is beautiful. So if you haven't seen what their shop looks like, definitely go check these guys out. I'll link their Instagram and website in the show notes. These guys put on a ton of really cool events throughout the year too, which is something you don't see a lot of shops doing, at least not to this extent. So another thing to be thinking about and learning from the guys over at Dynamic Detailing. I hope you guys enjoy and can find some kind of value in this week's episode. Don't forget, you can use the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip ahead. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, I'm back with Daniel from Dynamic Detailing. Daniel, nice to see you again, man.
Likewise.
Well, it's been a little over a year since we did the last podcast.
Yeah, time flies.
It does, man. It's crazy. How was your 2025?
It was interesting, different. Lots of hurdles, but I think things that needed to happen in order for us to make necessary changes for the business going forward, next 5-10 years. So
I always love how you're thinking so far ahead.
you got to.
Well, I think most people are thinking like about tomorrow. Not that I'm not also. I'm sure you are too, but it's cool to see you saying 5-10 years, like thinking like that.
Yeah, I mean, I built that luxury in for myself. I think a lot of people in this industry are kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and they've got the buffer in the hand or the squeegee or whatever it may be. And it makes it hard for them to make those decisions and really kind of take a step back and look at what's going on with the business, because, you're either working on the business or you're working in the business. You can't do both at the same time. So, from the very beginning in the early years, I kind of put the necessary team together so that I could work on the business. So,
well, tell me, what hurdles did you guys face in 2025? What were some of your guys' biggest struggles?
To be honest, we're a very seasonal business, and we kind of always have been. But I think since 2023, we started noticing a shift. And in 2025, we started seeing a lot of shops offering crazy discounts even in the summer. And that was something we had never seen before. And we had only seen like in the winter or maybe like early spring, from like typically the December months to about March when the rain is tapering off. So, yeah, it was interesting to see people offering 20, 30. I think we even saw like 35% discounts from local shops in the summertime. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Is everyone just like, super slow? So, yeah, so I mean, we noticed that there was a lot of slowdowns for us as well as other shops. One of our biggest slowdowns, though, because I'm going to rephrase, we actually had a great year. But if you look on paper, we were down total 4.75% in income. But a lot of that income in 2024 was because we had a dealer account. And so I remember talking to you about this last time. We had a dealer account with Porsche, and it was great for a while until, everything needs to get done yesterday. Everything is a priority. They're throwing you too much work, which sounds great at first, until all of a sudden you're putting your retail business on the back burner, trying to get the stuff done for the dealership. And it kind of eventually morphs into this toxic relationship where it feels like you're kind of dating a narcissist. And
Mm.
we just got to the point where it didn't make sense. We were giving them wholesale pricing. We were, you know, driving to the dealership, picking the car up, bringing it back, doing the work for less money, driving it back to them. Customer would complain about one thing because the dealership was not doing any form of, you know, expectations for the client. They're like, oh yeah, everything's going to be perfect. It'll this and that, and you won't have any issues. And then there'd be like one little thing the customer would complain about that normally we would have already set those expectations for our retail side. So we'd have to go all the way back, pick up the car, bring it back, redo whatever we had to redo, and then take it back. So eventually we went our separate ways with the dealership. And we just really started focusing heavy in 2025 back into our retail side of things. But because things were slowing down, we saw that the kind of lower middle class to lower class was just fighting us constantly on prices, wanting us to price match 3-4 different quotes, etc. And so we really just like revamped the entire business to focus on higher end clients so that we could charge more, that people would see the value in the services. We started sponsoring the local PCA community, and that was huge for us. We started using Urable in April. That was massive. It's equated to more reviews, more referrals, more that when we send out quotes, everything looks super professional. You can see multiple different proposals and prices. People can select which one they want. We can set reminders to go out like, hey, it's been 2 weeks since you got your car coated. You're safe to go ahead and wash the car now. A year from then, they will then get another reminder email. Hey, it's time to come in for your annual maintenance detail. So all those little things have just been super huge. I mean, the thing I love about Urable is as robust as it is on the desktop, there's no watered down version on the phone. Everything I can do on the desktop, I can do on the phone. I can see everything that's happening with my business if I'm sitting on a beach in Hawaii, just on a chair drinking a margarita. You know, it's so fascinating, everything that you can see and what's going on. So
Yeah, usually if the desktop is optimized, the phone is not. You have to give and take
always,
there.
usually, yeah.
So do you think that a dealership can ever make sense? And what does it look like
So
if it did?
yeah, I had a feeling you were going to ask that. In my experience, it hasn't. And, you know, I think the most important thing for people to do with their businesses is figure out what you even want your business to be. If you want to be a high volume dealership, you know, company, and you've got multiple dealerships and you're just turning and burning, then great, you know, but that's just not what I want for my business. I really want to like see the change happening, you know, and there's like so many middlemen from us installing it to then the end user. You know, it's so cool when clients pick up their car and we get to see their real world reaction, and you know they leave us the reviews, and it's just like it's more personal. That's the experience I'm looking for. That's how you can really build a business. You know, dealerships, I find it's like, well, 2026 comes around, they're like, hey, budget cuts, we got to find a cheaper vendor, so can we find someone that can do it 10% cheaper, and then you're out. So and that was one of the things too. It's, you know, no hard feelings with the dealership, but it just, everything was about money, you know, and they're nickel and diming us here on a full front PPF when they're charging, you know, two and a half times what we would charge retail. And
Yeah,
it's like,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always wondered, like, does it make more sense to build relationships with the sales guys at the dealerships and having them like refer, hey, go see Daniel at Dynamic Detailing, not, hey, let me try to sell it and then charge more than him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of employees, and this is one thing that we found in the dealership is that a lot of the salespeople and the service advisors are getting kickbacks. And so they're getting paid under the table by these shops for every car that they send them. And so a dealership at any given time, the amount of volume that a dealership goes through is insane. So when we had our account with Porsche, we were one of 3 vendors and we were slammed with work. So no one vendor can handle all the work that they would send you. And the other thing too is like they were just wanting to send full body after full body PPF. And I hate full body PPF for the most part. That's why we give the clients like the I don't want to do it price. And it's not so much like a, hey, I'm trying to rip you off on this price. It's like, this is what makes sense for me to do it. The cost, the time, the labor, when we're going from doing a whole front, which is like anywhere from 4 to 10 pieces, to where we did a Lamborghini Revuelto last week, 168 pieces.
It's crazy.
168 pieces on that car. I mean, it's like you have so many pieces laid out on the table. Everything has to get labeled because otherwise you're sitting there like, what goes where? What is this? What piece is that?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors why we don't like full body PPF. And for 95% of people, it doesn't make sense to even do. Now, for our Porsche clients that we sponsor the PCA community, absolutely, these guys go and track their cars, abuse their cars. They want that full coverage. But a guy coming in with a Toyota Camry and he's like, yeah, I want full body PPF. Okay, tell me why. Does it make sense for you? Because when I give you that sticker shock of, hey, it's going to be $9,500 or 10 grand to wrap your whole car with PPF, you're like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, click, right?
Mm-hmm.
But first, let me figure out, is that even what makes sense for you? Because then I have the opportunity to slowly talk you off the cliff and say, hey, you know what? I don't think that necessarily makes sense. We're happy to do it if that's where you're geared towards. But if you want, if you want to protect your car, there's multiple ways to get there. We don't have to wrap your car with $10,000 worth of plastic. So
Yeah, I find that all the time, man. People, they're just like, well, I just need the price. That's all I need to make the decision. And I know everyone that's in sales deals with this. And you have
right,
to go, well, hold up. Why do you want this? Oh,
correct.
you want a ceramic coating because it's going to protect against rock chips and scratches?
Yeah,
Well, the price doesn't even matter because we're not talking
no.
about the same solution. The thing that you think is going to solve your problem isn't.
Yeah, the easiest way to shoot a sale we've found is by quoting someone on something that was not the right solution. And then they're like, oh, that's too much money. Thanks. Okay, bye. So, but to circle back here, to go back to your original question about dealerships, I do think it can make sense for some people. For us and me personally, no. I think every business has to figure out what their niche is. The problem I see with companies out there these days is everyone's trying to do everything. They're trying to do detailing and paint correction and coatings and ceramic coatings and powder coating and brake, coloring the brakes. And now we're also getting into vinyl wrapping and, oh, we're going to do tires and wheels. It's like, pick a couple things and be really good at it. Do you want to be a mobile detailer? Do you want to have a brick and mortar? Do you want to have a brick and mortar that services retail? Do you want to have a brick and mortar that mainly services dealerships? You got to figure out, you can kind of go between them, but it's kind of better from what I've found, is to lean more towards one thing than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I think it takes trying different things to really understand like what you enjoy. And
Yeah.
you may start with detailing and then you get into paint protection film and you're like, man, this is really where I feel called. This is my
Yeah.
passion now. But then sometimes you get into paint protection film and you're like, man, I actually really just enjoy doing more detailing or window tint or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, originally we never even wanted, I think I told you this in the last podcast, we never wanted that dealer account. They actually begged me because they had a vendor that wasn't doing great work. They didn't like the prices. And I said, well, I'm not going to be cheap. So I'll give you some prices. And if you're okay with it, cool, we can try to work this relationship out. But yeah, I never wanted it to begin with, but they begged us. And then the ironic thing is after we severed that relationship, they lost another one because come to find out one of their vendors wasn't even installing what they said they were installing.
Wow.
They were an Expel installer. They were installing some cheap knockoff film and they were cutting a lot of cars too. So, when you're buying a $300,000 Porsche Turbo S and you're getting it wrapped and you're spending $10,000 to $12,000 in film from the dealership, I think people assume when they get stuff done from the dealership that the dealership is like this legit operation, and so everything must be legit. But they cut corners like crazy on the detailing, the coatings, everything. So
It's unfortunate.
yeah, so we just didn't want to be a part of that.
So your sales were down about 5%, but in large part because of losing this dealership account.
Yeah, I mean, it was a multiple six-figure account. So where we lost in the dealership, I mean, only be down 4.7%, we made up for a lot of it in retail. So, we kind of had to take a step back to move forward. And I'm very happy with where we've landed as far as the kind of clientele we are now speaking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned in summer there was a lot of shops that were just racing to the bottom, doing so many discounts. What has helped you guys with talking to those kinds of customers now, and um, knowing that you have a higher price than what a lot of people are doing, still being able to make a deal with the customer?
Yeah, when you're getting into the higher end clientele, you have to know your stuff, and you also have to know how to talk to people. Sales is so people put a lot of effort into marketing in this business, and then they fall short on the sales side. And it is 50-50. If you don't have any marketing, there's nothing to sell. If you have great marketing and you fall short on the sales, you're not going to make any money. And so we had to completely revamp our entire sales script, how we talk to customers, how we handled objections, how we dealt with things. In talking to someone on the phone, we spend at least 10 minutes with them before we give out prices. It's our discovery phase. We're trying to figure out, have you ever had PPF before? If you did, was there anything you didn't like about it? Was there anything you wish was different? What brand did you have? Did you like the amount of coverage that you had? Were you looking for something different on this car, and why? What are you using it for? How long do you plan on keeping the car for? I can't tell you how many people come in. They're like, yeah, I want full body PPF. I'm probably going to keep the car 3 years. And I'm like, okay. I'm just going to throw out a general number here, 10 grand, for full body PPF. Does that make sense to you to wrap a car with $10,000 worth of plastic for the next 3 years? And then, you don't get that back when you sell the car. So the next person just benefits. I mean, I've a couple cars that I've bought. They already come with a full body PPF. I'm like, score. I didn't have to pay for it. So, it's just, we level with the client. We just say, hey, to most of our clients, that is not the best investment, and it doesn't always make sense. I'd like to give you a couple other options. And if you still want us to do the full body PPF, we're here for it. But let me give you a couple other options that I think you might like a little bit better and you'll see the value in.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys always going immediately to the phone call, or are you like sending an email or a text message first?
So we immediately respond with an email. The email is a templated email that answers pretty much every question they could ever have. There's also an attached FAQ sheet that's like 6 pages long that answers all the questions we've ever been asked by clients. And then there's, what's expected with PPF, what's expected with coatings, what's expected with tint. Then there's the pricing guide that's attached. There's, and then so once we send out that email, they have all the information. And then we will call them next. Our goal is to try and get them on the phone. Usually the conversations are so much easier and so much faster. I mean, I'm sure when you've emailed a client, like a conversation that would take 5 minutes on the phone can sometimes take all day via email.
Yeah.
So our goal is to get them on the phone so that, one, they can hear a human, and two, we can speed up the sales process. If they don't pick up, we then send a text message. So now they have a missed call. they have a text message, and then they have an email with all of the information they could need.
Yeah. And then you guys just keep following up.
Yeah, so we have everything that comes into the website. It pipes into a Google Sheet where then everything gets marked where it is in the phase, and it will, change and actually create formulas to add up everything. So we know what our close ratios are for each month, the entire year, what marketing sources are the highest close ratio, whether it's Yelp, whether it's Google, whether it's, the Porsche community, the Santa Clara Corvette Club. I mean, we have so many different places that people will select when they put a submission in on the website, and we want to know, okay, well, what's the ROI on all this marketing that we're doing? So,
yeah. What is your conversion rate like for? I mean, I'm sure it's different for every single one of those platforms, but does it have? Do you have like an
yeah,
average?
well, our average is going to be about 35% is what we try to shoot for. Ideally, we want to be closer to 40. So,
Yeah. And how much of that is like paid ads?
I would say honestly, about half. Our goal is to get that down more and more each year. So, ironically, our marketing cost last year was down 20%.
Hmm.
So, we just haven't been spending as much. We've also been taking advantage of some special things on Google that they have for like local services. And then we've also kind of branched out. The thing is in marketing, you kind of have to stand out. And if everyone is marketing on Google, everyone's marketing on Yelp, you're all just a bunch of companies just pushing stuff to clients. So we actually try to get our clients a little bit more organically. So ironically, the Lamborghini that came in last week, that was a near $22,000 job. Full body PPF, ceramic coating, tint, interior coating. And that came from one of our events that we hosted. The ironic part is the guy never even attended an event. He saw an ad for our event in probably one of his communities or just on Facebook or Instagram, and then went to our website and was like, oh, these guys do PPF and coatings. I think I'm going to bring my next car to them and give them a chance. And so we've been doing a lot of events and stuff. I'm into Formula One, so we host like live Formula One watch parties. We partnered with like the regional Red Bull marketing department. So they'll bring a bunch of simulators. We'll have like a huge 16-foot projection screen. We have popcorn. We got coffee, depending on time of day, or we do like ice cream for the night races. And, people can come and watch. And we have, let's see, so for our last Las Vegas watch party, we had about 250 people here.
Yeah, I saw some videos on it. How do you get turnouts like that for these events?
Well, the more you do them, we do them through Eventbrite, so people can follow us as an organizer on Eventbrite. So now, anytime we post a new event, they get notified. But I do also do some pushing on social media. So my sales guy, who does some of the marketing as well, will make a reel, and then we'll use that reel, put it on Instagram, Facebook, and blast it. So I'll let you guess, how much do you think I spent to get 300 people here in marketing?
$1,000?
100.
Wow.
Not even. I actually had to turn off the ad because the event was getting filled up too fast. So I don't know if that's because Formula One is so extremely popular these days or what, but we don't have to spend much on marketing. So the crazy thing is I get 300 people here at the shop. They get to see the shop, how beautiful it is. They get to see the services we do because we'll have like a reel playing on one of the TVs so they can see us doing all the services. 300 people. Now, how much would it cost me to get 300 people to my shop from Google Ads or
Oh
Yelp
my gosh.
or whatever it may be, right? We're talking about tens of thousands. So, I spent a couple grand on the coffee and whatever, some drinks, refreshments, maybe some raffle prizes, and then $100 in marketing. And I get 300 bodies here to come hang out at an event. The goal is not to sell us. That happens naturally. That happens organically. The goal is to just get people here and just be a part of the community. But what happens organically is people are like, wow, this is a really great shop. Oh, they do ceramic coatings. Oh, they do PPF. I'm going to hit them up for my next car. So it isn't an immediate ROI, but it is a slow drip, and it is a snowball effect. So we do those. We do car care seminars. So those get sponsored by Griot's Garage. They send like $1,000 worth of stuff for us to raffle off to everyone who attends. We do PCA events. We've probably had about 450 people here for our Porsche PCA event, and like literally the parking lot was littered with Porsches. Probably 250 Porsches, about 450 people total in attendance. We do like a white party where we have all white cars on display, music, photo booth, coffee. That one has about 500 plus people. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I think what's important is that you enjoy that. Like I can
yeah,
see that you are a huge not only do you love the Formula 1, but like that's just part of who you are. And I don't necessarily think everyone is like that. Everyone, they have
correct.
different, inclinations or ways they want to grow their business. Um and some people like they'd be like I don't want to do that. So not everyone listening has to go and necessarily put on events, although there's probably some
No,
people that are like, man,
no,
that sounds exactly like what I need to be doing.
right.
But it
Yeah,
fits
it's
with who you are,
definitely
man.
right. It's definitely not for everyone. However, I will say that everyone should at least do some type of seminar. You know,
Mm,
do a seminar, invite the local community, some of the local chapters from like car groups, etc. Make it free to attend. Put 100, $200 into coffee and pastries. Rent some chairs. Our last seminar, I think we had about 65, 70 people, and people book services. And all I'm doing is teaching them how to detail their cars. I'm literally teaching them how to professionally detail their cars. Why? Because I don't offer detailing. The name is dynamic detailing, but we're just a paint protection shop. We protect people's cars. We don't have the time or the space to do detailing anymore. So then I teach people, if they want to learn how to detail their cars at home, and then eventually there's some shameless plugs in there about what we do, and it's enough for people to book with us. But I think whether you're a mechanic shop, a wheel shop, invite the community, show them in, show them what you do. It doesn't cost much to get 60 people here, and it can turn into tens and thousands.
yeah,
So
that's cool. Um, yeah. What is your what does it look like whenever you're doing one of those events? Like, do you have like I'm sure it's improved over time,
yeah.
but I know you have like a little Q&A session. We talked about that on the last podcast at the end. But how do you make it entertaining for people and not bog them down with all the nuance of car detailing?
Are you talking about for the events in general or the car care seminars?
Maybe more the car care seminars.
Okay. So the car care seminars is I kind of hand select what I want to teach people. Obviously, I can't, it's an hour and a half seminar. I can't teach someone how to paint correct a car. I can't teach someone like how to do complete interior, exterior, like crazy detailing. So we focus on like washing, proper methods for washing, how to even take care of your towels, because your towels are actually what scratches the car. Most scratching happens in the drying process of the wash, not the washing process. We go over like clay bar treatments. We go over how to then protect your car after it's been fully detailed. You can protect it with PPF, you can protect it with a ceramic coating or a wax or a sealant. And then we go over like what the differences are, because like not everyone knows, you know. Um, and so and then most of it's just like up to Q&A. And when you got 60 people here, a lot of people got questions. And the cool thing is when one person has a question, chances are 5 other people in the room have that same question. So you can kind of play off everyone's questions, and it really helps. And I hook myself up to a mic, because trying to project my voice to like 60, 70 people for 2 hours, I will lose it for sure.
Yeah. How many events did you guys do in 2025?
We did 3 Formula One watch parties. We did Coda, Miami, and Las Vegas. We did 2 car care seminars. We did a white party, and I believe 2 Porsche PCA events. So
Okay. Around 8 or so.
yeah, it's usually about 6 to 8 a year.
Cool, man. I'm sure you guys have more of those lined up for 2026.
Yeah, the Formula One stuff is getting crazy, so we're just going to keep striking while the iron's hot with that. And definitely the PCA events. We'll do probably one more car care seminar here, probably in February, so next month. And then it's nice to do them in the winter because you get a decent turnout because it's raining, and so all the other events get canceled. Whereas this is like it's not a car meet; you just come and show up. We're inside, and so the rain doesn't matter. So we're not competing with other events.
I curious, are you still do you still have a sales guy?
Yeah,
Okay. I'd like to talk about that a little bit because
absolutely.
I was listening back to the podcast that the first one we did today, and I heard you say that one of the first things you did in your business was hire a sales guy
Hmm.
and put yourself like in the back of the shop.
Yeah.
You weren't installing, but you were more like overseeing, working on the business. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was installing in the beginning, like, I didn't go from like sitting in a chair day one and saying, you do this, you do that, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like you gotta get your hands dirty for at least a couple years. And then eventually the business gets busy enough. You can slowly start to exit the warehouse and you can start working on the business 24/7. So, I mean, that's why I have the ability to just sit here and do a podcast. I mean, like if I turn this, you can see like I'm just in an office pod and this is like the whole shop here. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, it's day one. You definitely want to, sorry, I'm fixing my screen. Hire a salesperson. I think that's probably one of the most important to do. You could train someone from the ground up if you find someone who's a really good people person. Otherwise, you really kind of want to find a natural born salesperson. Sales is hard. Not everyone can do it. And for the most part, these services should sell themselves, and I think customers are getting more and more educated. But we're also in a more competitive space from where we were 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you really had to focus on education. Now you're dealing with competition. You're dealing with objections. You're dealing with time constraints, etc. So you need to know how to handle those things, how to handle objections without seeming desperate. Funny you ask. We had literally just sat down 2 days ago and just did some role playing just to see kind of how he is, whether he's rusty, if he needs help with certain objections. There was like one that he wanted help with, and for the most part, he's killing it. So
Is this the same sales guy you had last year?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
He's been with me for about 5 years now. Started off as a detailer, and I was like, I feel like this is not your calling. I feel like we need to get you out of the warehouse. I think you could be great with sales. He's like, really? I'm like, let's try it.
Yeah. How important is it to put someone in sales that has had previous detailing or technician experience?
So that's actually a good point. I think it's very easy or much easier to sell these services and products when you've actually been in the back. You understand how it works. You understand the time it takes. You understand the nuances of it. Uh, I think it makes it seem like you actually know what you're talking about, as opposed to like telling them what they think, what you think they want to hear. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's always been my thought too. Is like you take someone from the outside in and they're going to overpromise.
yeah, yeah, they need to know, you know, what can be wrapped with PPF, what can't be wrapped. When it comes to tinting, they need to know like what's a no-no, like what cars should we avoid because there's a module hiding behind the windshield, and if it gets wet, it's a $5,000 repair. They need to know with paint correction, like what are the limitations that we can push with a buffer? Why is there liability on repainted cars? So like all of these things, it's one thing to learn sales, then you also have to learn the industry. And when they've already worked in the industry for a little bit, he was a detailer before I hired him. So he was working at another shop about an hour away from here, then moved here and then hired him. Great detailer, honestly, great attention to detail. But I think that's also why he's successful in sales too, because he has really great attention to detail. And I can be a little bit more abrasive when it comes to the sales. Like I will challenge clients sometimes in a gentle way, but I'm a little bit more abrasive, whereas he's like very soft spoken. And I think that's actually good for our area and where we are, because sometimes people don't want to be on the phone. They're trying to avoid everything they can to come see you in person or be on the phone. So they want to hide behind their screens. And so when he does actually get them on the phone, he's like very calming to talk to and easy to listen to. And I think he has a way of building trust really well.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that takes a certain kind of person, man. It really does.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now you told me you guys record your sales conversations and kind of will listen back to those, just to like listen for like objections or stuff like that. Is that right?
We don't record them, but I'm usually sitting pretty near him. My desk is usually right next to him, so I can hear his phone calls. I can see the email chains and everything because he now handles all the emails. He handles the phone calls, the text messages. We don't have like a landline. We have a cell phone, so it's really nice because then when clients like email asking for a quote, we can say, "Well, send us a picture." And then they're like, okay, where should I send the picture? I'm like, the phone that you're talking to right now, it's a cell phone. So it makes it really easy for texting and calling, etc. So, and I can oversee all that. I can see the chat. So if I see something, I'm like, hey, I would have said it this way, and here's why, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. How much is he like phoning you, or I guess how much was he phoning you in the beginning, or like asking you questions about things like he maybe didn't know as much about?
Uh, in the beginning, I would say a lot. Now, not much at all. Really, it's maybe just like, hey, what do you think we should quote this? Because we have our set services, but when you start getting into full body PPF, it's like when you're quoting a Tesla and you're quoting a Lamborghini Revuelto, it's two totally different ball games. It's going to take 4 times as long to do the Revuelto as it is going to be for the Tesla. So it does get hard to quote the full body sometimes. And usually I'm like, hey, what were you gonna tell them? And he was like, well, this is the price that I was gonna say. I'm like, okay, that's actually the exact price that I had in my head. So he's doing well. He knows exactly what to do. I think he just questions himself sometimes. Or he's just like, hey, how would you handle this objection? They said it to me in text or email or whatever. So
Yeah. And so when do you think, and you said you should hire a sales guy as soon as possible.
mhm.
Um, when do you think that it ever makes sense to be that sales guy yourself as like the owner? Because that's kind of how I am right now.
um, maybe for a little bit, but long term, no. Um, I think as owners, it's harder for us as salespeople
Mm,
because we have too much pride in the business. Whereas a salesperson, they're like, "Hey, I just work here." You know what I mean?
so
It's
true.
it's easier to handle objections sometimes when you're not so emotionally involved in the business, right? And he cares about his job. He takes massive pride in his work. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he doesn't own the business. He doesn't really care as much, and that kind of comes across. It's like, it's like I tell people when it comes to sales, be more like a cat energy than dog energy.
Mm.
Right? Do you have a cat or a dog?
I mean, I know what you're talking about. I have a dog.
Yeah, so you know how a cat is like, I don't give a shit about you,
Yeah.
and cats are going to go off and do
Very
whatever they
independent.
want. Very independent, right? So like you almost kind of have to act as a salesperson like, hey, we don't need your business, but we would love your business, you know? And if you're like the dog and you're chasing it around and following it around and constantly following up, a lot of shops will sit there and say, oh yeah, we do 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 touches with a client. And I'm like, I don't care. If a customer wants to work with me, they want to work with me. We'll follow up 2, 3 times. And if we're still getting ghosted, it's like, how much energy do you want to put into someone that's not even responding to you, as opposed to taking that energy and responding to someone that's like, hey, I'm ready to go ASAP. Like, I just want to get some more info on the packages and prices, And obviously, if you're a slower business and you don't have as many leads coming in, then you have the time to keep following up until they tell you to, piss off.
So if you haven't heard, if you haven't if the customer hasn't answered your text or your calls or your emails and you followed up 3 times, you guys usually just let it go?
For the most part, it's a email, it's a call, it's a text. Then the next day, it's a follow up text. Then we usually give it a couple days. It's a third one. So we technically say it's 3, but it's actually 4. And the fourth one will be what we call a Hail Mary. So we'll look at the schedule and say, okay, this guy's looking at a ceramic coating. I'm looking at my schedule. I can do this. Let's say it's Tuesday right now, and I know tomorrow I'm busy on PPF, but I could squeeze in one more ceramic coating. I know the guys can handle it. I'll send that person a message and say, hey, just want to let you know we had a customer cancel, and we'll give you X discount. If you wanted to bring it in tomorrow, let us know. And sometimes it works. Majority of the time it doesn't, and they
Yeah.
still don't respond. So
The harder ones are the people that they've expressed maybe some level of interest, but they're still thinking about it. How do you guys follow up with those?
I just ask them what they're thinking about.
How
You
often
know,
do you do that?
but I mean, every person's different. Like I said, I can be a little bit more abrasive. Like I'll just like point blank ask you, like, what is it that you're thinking about? I mean, because at the end of the day, sales is never about price. When people give the price objection, it's not actually about price. Just people make it about price, and they're like, oh, yeah, let me see what discount I can do for you. But it's not about price. They're uncertain about something. And because they're uncertain, they don't feel the value in paying said price. So what you have to do is you have to make it not about price and say, make your objection figuring out what the issue actually is. So my sales guy was like, hey, so when customers ask us to price match something, I had one the other day. I didn't know how to respond. The guy asked if we could price match at another shop, which we do have a price match guarantee. And we will look at the quote, we'll price match it. Customer responds back to him and says, oh, can you beat it? And he didn't know how to respond to that. And I said, well, it's very simple. You just turn it around, make it not about price. Just ask the customer, hey, do you mind if I ask why you haven't chose the other shop to go to?
Hmm.
And at that point, you've now pigeonholed them. They now have to give you a reason as to why they'd rather work with you. Because if they didn't want to work with us instead, they would have gone to the other shop.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about price. They just want to feel better about their decision. We all want to feel better about our decision, right? Some people are very gifted and they can just go make a few $1,000 purchase just in 2 minutes. For me, I'm like the kind of guy, I'm gonna research, I'm gonna hop on Reddit, I'm gonna look at reviews, this and that. Is this the right thing for me before I spend $2,000 or whatever it may be? I want to know that I'm making the right decision. So when you take yourself and you put that in the mindset of the customer, it all starts to make sense. You're like, oh, okay, he's just not sure about something. And if you've done your job right as a salesperson, you should by now know what that is. And oftentimes what we see is it's because maybe that person's never had PPF before, but all their friends told them that they needed it. So they're contacting you saying, hey, I want to get a PPF on my car. How much is it? You give them a price and they're like, oh, yeah, that's kind of a lot of money. Well, but in comparison to what? If you've never had it before, the problem is he doesn't see the value in it because he's never had it. Once you've had PPF and you see it save your paint and you don't have to repaint your car after every rock chip, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. You're not going to go in nickel and dime and make the shop discount $100 because the other shop's doing it $100 cheaper. You're just like, oh, cool. I like your reviews. You guys are great. Cool.
Yeah. But a lot of the conventional sales is like trying to convince someone that doesn't already know that or see
Mm-hmm.
that or understand that, trying to convince them of like why they need to have it, and like trying to put that that uh, just that feeling that you have when you have
Yeah.
all these rock chips on your paint and or scratches on your car. Like the people that know that they want it because they've had that before and they've had PPF to protect it. Like they don't need to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
They might need to be educated on like why you're better than everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just selling value. That's all it is. So, yeah.
Yeah. I struggle with sales, and I think a lot of it does come down to the owner's pride.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. It's easier to get someone else in there because like I can still work pretty fast when it comes to PPF, ceramic coatings, whatever. Like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but for the most part, if you put me back there, I'll run circles around my guys. Because, like, I don't need to take lunch at a certain time. I don't need to sit there and check my phone. Like, I know that if I sit there and I'm texting my friends, I'm wasting time. So, um, I, I'm going to run circles around them when it comes to the services. And so I'd rather put myself back here temporarily, I'm saying in the early years, to work on the cars and get the cars done faster because you can't speed up sales. No matter how quick you are at something, you can't really speed up sales. There's just a natural process to it. But I can work faster at putting a full front on than one of my guys, or I can coat a car faster just because I'm more efficient. So, um,
what does
I
your sales
think,
guy's day-to-day routine look like?
well, when he comes in, the first thing he does is get everything turned on, get all the lights turned on. He actually has to check the bathroom, make sure the bathroom's all good, that there's, everything is stocked, make sure the coffee machine's stocked. Our lobby is not like your average lobby. And when someone walks in, we want it to feel like that 5-star hotel experience. You go in the bathroom, you get a bidet, you've got, we now have like scrubbing salts for your hands and stuff that have like essential oils and coconut oil. There's like actual towels. It's not like just paper towels. It's actual towels. You toss it in the basket. We do the laundry on them and then we fold them and roll them up. And it's just like, those are the kind of things that you remember when you go somewhere. You walk in and there's like jazz music playing, like lo-fi jazz, and like there's dim lighting and everything is just curated to make people, have a completely different experience than they're used to. So that's his first task when he gets in. And then the customers start dropping off. He'll do all the check-ins in the morning. That takes anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how late the customers are. If we got to send someone home in a loaner car or send them home in an Uber, we're doing that. And then he's rolling right into pickups. So from 9 to about 10 a.m. is drop offs. And then from 10 to about 11 is usually pickups for the vehicles. And then he's from like 11 on, he's like calling and following up with leads and everything for the rest of the day. And then maybe there's a few more pickups towards the end of day or something for like smaller jobs. And then he's checking the bathrooms again, checking the coffee maker, making sure everything's stocked. We've got little chocolates on the front coffee table, making sure that those are filled, making sure things are dusted.
Mm-hmm. How often are you stepping in to help out with things like that?
I mean, whatever. I mean, I'll take out the trash. I'll field a phone call. I'll show someone, some services, walk them through the shop and like book the full appointment. I do whatever I need to do, but for the most part, I try not to have myself tied too down to the business because I need to be focusing on what the next step is. And this business changes constantly. I mean, like I said, this year, it's like we started seeing people discounting in the summer. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? I was like, maybe we need to start changing the kind of clients we start getting. So we started focusing on getting higher end clients. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's really helpful what you said about the sales guy's routine. It sounds to me like he's the guy that he's like kind of the person in between the customers and the shop, and that's a lot of responsibility.
yeah,
Setting
he's,
expectations when someone's dropping off, and
yep,
making sure they understand everything when they check out, and
yeah.
um,
Yeah, he's very good at it. He's basically the whole dynamic detailing experience. He is that person. The customers don't always get to see or meet the other employees, so he's the first and last person they talk to, and that's a lot of responsibility. But he's done a great job at it, and I think if anyone's going to put a salesperson in place, you have to understand they're the face of your business. It's a huge responsibility.
how do you think you pay someone like that?
You can pay them based on commission. You can pay them based on performance. It just depends. I mean, it also depends on where you're at. California is a little tricky for us in paying commissions and whatnot, just due to taxation. So, um, yeah, I mean, we have tracking sheets for all the employees, so I can see in real time what everyone's doing, how they're doing compared to last month. I think I showed you those tracking sheets last time, and basically they fill out every job that they do, and then everything gets calculated. We spent months creating the formulas and everything, and it basically has assigned points for every job that they do, and it lets me know like kind of what they're tracking as far as averages, and um, they get raises when they hit new tiers. So like last year, I had to give an employee 3 different raises last year. It's so different from like the traditional like, oh, wait till the end of the year and then in December you get your annual 3% inflationary raise. It's not like that anymore. It shouldn't be. And so I could have an employee go an entire year without getting a raise, and the other guy, he's kicking butt and he gets 3 raises that year alone.
Hmm. One thing I wanted to talk about with you, I think last time you mentioned to me that you felt like it was a good investment at some point in your business to buy a nice car, a shop car,
Yeah.
something to show your customers your
Hmm.
services on.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of depends on where you're at, how much of a car you can afford. Don't go
Hmm.
buy a $100,000 car when you're just starting. Um, that's stupid. But I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. Um,
Sure.
and I just kind of want to know, uh, like, is there a good? Do you pay cash for that car? Um, how do you make that car make sense, and ultimately help your business?
Uh, that's an interesting question. It depends on a lot of things. Obviously, everyone's finances are going to be different. I used to, do the whole like classic, oh, lease a car for 3 years. And then after that, you go and lease another one. You like convince yourself that it's like this amazing thing because you're like, I get to write it off. And like, you're like, cool, but you still had to pay for it. Right. So it's like, I think people use this term write off like as if it's like free magic money, and it's not.
Yeah.
And so, I just like cars exploded during COVID in prices. And I just got tired of leasing. I was like, wait a minute, look at how much money I'm spending on leasing. And then at the end of the 3 years, I just turn it in, and then I don't have anything to show for it. And then I just pay more money for the next car, put a down payment, pay the monthly payment, and that's it. So, um, one of the cars I have, it's, I bought it personally, and then I had a lawyer draft up a lease agreement. So the lease agreement is between me and the corporation for a certain amount of time, and then what that monthly payment's going to be. And essentially, the payment from the business to me is the exact amount to cover the monthly payment. So I finance the car. I don't it, buying cash or financing. That's a rabbit hole we can get into, but you have to ask yourself about opportunity cost. If let's say the car is 100 grand and I throw 100 grand into this car, what is that doing for me? Right? Am I doing that because I want to save on interest? My car, the R8 is financed at 4.9% with my credit union. I that's You might as well call it free money at that point. Why would I spend cash on the entire car just to save 4.9% when I could take the money, finance it with my credit union, and what I would have spent on the car, I go throw in the stock market or whatever else, and I make, like last year, I think it was like 20%, right? So I still netted 16% better than if I put the cash down on the car. Does that make sense?
It
So it's all
does.
about it's all about opportunity cost. And then what I do is I set up that lease agreement with the business. The business writes me a check every month. I then deposit that, make the payment on the car. And here's the fun part. When the loan is paid off, I own the car outright. And I used the business to pay down that personal asset for me. The business doesn't own the car. I own the car, but then I lease it to the business. And, if I ever got audited and they're like, why do you need this $200,000 car for your business? How is that helping you? I would say it's helps me tremendously. I mean, actually, for fun, I tracked every event that I went to with the R8. I wrote down who I talked to. How did it translate to business? The car brought me back in the first year $29,000.
Mm.
$29,000 of booked jobs. Not just like, oh, I talked to so and so and they wanted to get a full front, which was like $2,500. No. I talked to someone, they actually booked an appointment, we serviced their car, completed, done, $2,500 in our pocket that we wouldn't have had if I didn't go to that meet. But if I go to a meet with a, and no offense to anyone, but like if I go to a meet with a Honda Civic, no one's going to look at me. No one's going to talk to me. So you need to have a flashier car because it starts conversations. Conversations turn into money. That's networking. So, you can make it make sense with any car for the most part, as long as the deal is right and the car is right. Like we're in an interesting phase where cars are now becoming investments. Like there's this guy that I follow a lot of his stuff. His name's PJ on the internet. He basically teaches you how to buy the right car, the right specs, and the right mileage, and either minimize your downside or have an upside in the car. So, and I think last year he made 50% on his cars.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that the Dave Ramsey principle of like buying cash for your car, I think it's a good principle for the majority of people.
Yes.
But it's the discipline. It's like if you do have like a super low interest rate on your car loan, it might equate, depending on the loan, it might equate to $1,500 or a few $1,000s a year. And if you can look at that few $1,000s a year loss and you can say, well, am I disciplined enough to actually put that money into the market or into something else that's earning me more money? Because a lot of people aren't disciplined enough. They'll play that game.
Yes.
And then they don't actually follow through with it.
No, that's a fantastic point. That's actually what I was going to say is it only works if you're disciplined with the money that was going to get used. You don't get to like finance the car and be like, oh, well, I still have the 200 grand. Let's go to Vegas, boys. It doesn't work like that. You got to take that money and go put it to work for you. And in this economy with this inflation, if you're not doing that, you're just asking for failure. Like things are just going up in price like exponentially these days. It's unbelievable. So I foresee us having another price hike on our services this year. So
one thing you talked about last time we talked too, and I wanted to talk about on the podcast this time, you told me that you will not get rich from doing detailing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk about that a little bit because I want to know what you mean when you said that and what advice you have for everyone out there listening that just got their dreams crushed.
I'm not trying to crush a dream, right? The thing is like, if you get to come to work doing what you love every single day, that's the dream, right? But it's not going to make you rich. Like how many $100 details or $2,500 full fronts, and then after you factor in all the expenses and the taxes and what you get to take home at the end of the year, yeah, you might feel wealthier than you did when you had your W-2 job or whatever. But you got to be smart and like not spend all the acorns that your business saves up. And for me, like I take a distribution every year. Once we figure out what the taxes are on the profits, we figure out what's going to be needing to stay in the business to pay the taxes, what we want our cushion to be in our profit account, and then I'll distribute the rest out to myself because the savings account is going to make me 3.5% right now on the money in a high yield savings account or money market. So I take the money and I take it myself and I go and invest elsewhere. The business is not going to make me rich. And I say the same thing to my guys too. I'm like, guys, working for me, it's never going to make you rich. Working for someone else, it's never going to make you rich. You have to learn how to invest your money. And nowadays, you got to learn how to beat inflation. I think that's the name of the game. It's no longer even about, compounding and investments anymore. It's like, how do I protect myself against all this inflation? If you just leave your money in the bank and you're like, well, I'm getting my 3.5%, you're going to lose 2 to 3 times that per year on inflation.
Yeah. 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 You have to be so careful about it. Assets, or places you put your money that fall in value, which I think is why it's probably why that principle of pay your cars in cash exists, because most cars do just drop like
Oh yeah.
They just go down
Oh
in
yeah.
value so quickly. So,
We had a Audi e-tron that just left the shop,
oh
and it
man,
was an e-tron GT RS, whatever you call it, $191,000 sticker. That car is going to be worth 60 to 70 in 3 years. They're going to get waterboarded on $100,000 over 3 years. It's like where you could take that money and go throw it into something else that goes up in value, or just buy a used one. Why do you need a brand new one? I think we're going to be entering a time period where people are going to start waking up and they're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to lose $100,000 in 3 years.
yeah. Well, one of the things that I think about, I hear a lot of my buddies or friends, families that are earning 6-figure salaries and they're working 36 hours a week, 3 12-hour shifts. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like looking at how much money I made and how many hours I put in.
Yep.
And I'm like, whoa. Like, I mean, not that I didn't know that or expect that, but when you see it, it's like that's the realization of like, man, this is hard. And it's not what it's chalked up to be. Entrepreneurship and having your own business,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the detailing world. So if you're like a solo installer and you can keep your costs low, maybe you've got a partner.
Yes.
I think you can make good money. But the question is, do you enjoy it? Is this really
Right.
where you feel called, or is this something you're trying to get rich on? And what does it actually look like to become a shop like Grant Menard, or even what you're doing? I think you're a great example of that. I think that it is very difficult to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you said you're looking at the numbers and everything at the end of the year, you were pleasantly surprised, or you were like, oh man, I wish it could have been better.
It's like the last, like, since we started, pretty much has like been, I wish it could have been better. Like my take home, the profit of the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you keeping tabs on the financials of the business often?
Yes, we could always do a better job, of course, but
Yeah.
you keep telling yourself that it's going to
Get
pay
better.
off, but you have to have a plan for what that's going to look
Yeah.
like, I think. Because I think
Absolutely.
you can easily just get caught up in it, playing that game and always investing everything back into the business, and it never becomes truly worthwhile. So you have to balance that. I want to pay my team well and I want to invest back into the business, but at some point it also has to make sense for the owner in order for it to be sustainable.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes into business. People don't talk about it enough. And, the thing is, you have to remind yourself you're a business owner. You're not just a detailer. And so we're always trying to get better at the detailing and how do I get better at PPF and how do we become better at tinting? And it's like, well, how do I get better as a business owner? I don't think people ask themselves that question enough, because you can go an entire year and then you look at the books at the end of the year and you're like, oh man, it's going to be a sweet year. And you look at it, and after the taxes and everything gets taken out, you're like, where did it all go? What do you mean I owe that much in taxes? Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you imagine that the number is going to be bigger than it is. And it can be, but you have to be fiercely committed to being a good business owner. And I think that's the problem, is like, everyone will teach you how to be a great paint corrector, a PPF installer, a ceramic coater, a window tinter. There's trainings everywhere. How many are there for business though?
No, there's not many, man. If
There's
any.
not. No, yeah, and my wife keeps telling me, she keeps bugging me because we used to do the trainings and stuff, and actually majority of my trainings were focused on the business portion because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
guys, like you don't need me for this. You can go on YouTube these days, YouTube University, go learn how to code a car. You don't need me. I'm going to teach you the business stuff though. So she's like, you need to get back into that. You need to help these guys, help them learn how to go from multiple six-figure business to that seven-figure business. Because that change from six figures to seven figures, that's where the fun happens. That's where, it can become more money, more problems if you let it. Or it can become, wow, I actually own a business. The business doesn't own me.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing for a lot of people these days is they left their day job where they were working for someone else, started a business, and they're like, I'm going to have all this freedom. And all they did is just shackle themselves to a business that owns them, that owns
Yep.
their time, their emotion, their energy. And I think the business part gets skipped over way too much in our industry. And it sucks. It's sad.
Yeah. Well, that's a large reason why I started this podcast. I
Yeah.
think a lot of the insight that I've got from you on it has been like, especially when it comes to like sales, is like you have to fire yourself and hire
Yeah.
someone to do the things that maybe you feel like you're the best at, but
Hmm.
like that you need to hire someone else to do this role, like sales.
Yeah. I mean, like, you also got to just, if you're doing it yourself, track your own numbers. I mean, if you're doing a
Mm,
60% close ratio, I mean, screw it, stay the salesperson for a while until you can get an absolute money hungry beast to replace you. Because I think your time is best spent doing the sales at that point, because if you then hire a salesperson, maybe they're going to be closing 30, 40%. But track yourself. And if you're not, then you got to have a hard look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm not the best person for this role. Maybe I'm best being put other ways. You know, it's when you have that ability to finally take a step back and you look at your business and like, I've got my P&L sheet right here and I'm looking at all the numbers comparing 24 and 25 and I go through every line item and I'm like, why were we down or why were we up? And I have that luxury to be able to sit down with my business and figure out what changes do I need to make or do I not need to make any? And I go through each line item. But if you're so busy working on the business, you won't have it. You won't have that time to sit down with the business and have a look in the mirror and say, this is not working.
yeah. Another thing you guys do really well is the tracking. That's so important.
Yeah, you have to. Numbers are everything. If you don't know the numbers, how do you know what pivots you need to make in the business? If I didn't know that, like I can look at my numbers here and I can see that, okay, ceramic coatings were down 4.7% and PPF was down 7.7, but total revenue was only down 4.7. I know that majority of that loss in revenue for coatings and PPF was because we lost the dealer account, but I replaced it with retail. And now if I build that retail snowball, now, I mean, we were giving the dealerships a 20% cut, right? Or a 20% haircut on the retail price because they wanted wholesale. And so now once that retail snowball builds, I'm making my full retail price. I'm making 20% more than I was at the dealerships. So my profits will be better. I don't have to have as many employees. I don't think I told you this last time, but since 2023 to today, I'm down 40% in staff.
Wow.
We overhired during COVID. And then we found that, oh shoot, we can do the same revenue with a lot less staff. And it's we're not over here sweating bullets. My guys will go for walks around the building every day on their breaks, or they'll play pool in the lobby. I'm down 40% staff. Net income is still great. We track everything viciously, and we only work 4 days a week.
I was going
We're
to ask, are you still only working
I
4?
Yeah, we love it. We'll never go back. When you do your first 4-day work week, it feels weird. Sunday comes around, you're like, oh, I gotta get going to. No, I don't have work tomorrow. It's amazing, you know.
Uh,
You just start really controlling your business, and also you find that the employees are actually happier.
mhm.
They have more time to spend with families, and they're more efficient while they're here. Because when you have an 8-hour workday, 2 hours later, break. 2 hours later, lunch. 2 hours later, break. 2 hours later, bye. You're going home. And so having that little bit of extra time between breaks and lunch, they can just get into that flow state and really crank stuff out. So, even though it's one less day a week, the amount of work we put out is actually the same or better than when we were on a 5-day work week.
Mm. With
I recommend
40%
four
less
days for
staff.
everyone with 40% less staff. But, once again, I overhired. That was my mistake, as well as I'm sure a lot of other businesses during COVID. So,
Yeah. Well, do you have any, we've talked about a lot. Do you have any closing thoughts? Any things that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about, or?
no, I mean, I think for anyone listening, the best thing you can do is try to very quickly get to a point where you can work on the business. When you're working in the business, you have this like tunnel vision. You only know what's happening right in front of you. I've got a car, I'm coating this panel. I know that this panel is next. And then after that, I'm going to the trunk. When I'm doing PPF, I'm like, okay, cool. I got this over here. And okay, I'm going to tack there. I'm going to line up over here. When you work on the business, you're not in the warehouse anymore. I can really zoom out. It's like when you got your phone and you zoom out and you go to that wide angle lens, and I can see everything happening. I can see the sales guy. I can listen to his phone calls. I can help him get better. I can hang out in the lobby and watch through the viewing window at my PPF guy, and I can see if he's struggling on something. And so when he's done, I can go in and be like, hey, so next time I would try it like this. I can see our P&Ls. I look at our P&Ls once a month with accounting, and we can just really manage and monitor the business. And I can also just sit down and like have that emptiness of like running thoughts, and I can just kind of sit in peace and quiet and say, do I like where the business is going right now?
Mm-hmm.
Do I like what it's doing, where it's going? Do I like how much money I'm making? Do I feel like the employees are making enough money? Like I can figure out all of these things, and I have the time to do so because I put people in place. I put a salesperson in place. I put a paint protection film staff. I put ceramic coating staff. I have a staff for the detailing. I have a guy that prints all the film and gets it ready for the PPF guys. He prints all the tint and gets it ready for the tint guys. He's kind of like the shop supervisor. It just bounces around and just does things, whatever. So I
Yeah.
would say that's probably the biggest thing that I would say is everything changes once you get to a point where you can work on the business and not in it.
Do you think that as the person working on the business, as the owner, that you need to understand every aspect of it? Like, do you think it's a requirement to understand every service that you offer and how to do the sales?
Um, are you saying like do you need to know like how to actually do that service physically?
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's absolutely helpful for sure, because I think you can really just like help change things marketing wise. You can figure out how you want to educate customers based on like what the installation process is like. If I was so far removed from the business that I was just some guy who loved cars and wanted to open some car shop, and now I just like run it and I put people in place, I don't think I would have a really good grasp on the animal that it is and what goes into each and every service, because that changes how you sell things, how you market things, how you talk to your clients, how you talk to your employees. Do I know that it's realistic to do X job in X amount of time? Yeah, because I've done it myself. Right. So when the guys are like, yeah, it's just, there's no way I can't do it. And I'm like, cool, I'll do it. I'll show you. And
Yeah.
then quickly after, they're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but I think it's absolutely helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you have to ask a lot of questions, and I think sometimes it's hard to get that respect from the team, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I think once in a while I do like to, throw on the gloves or grab the squeegee or whatever it may be and just kind of jump in once in a while just to kind of, remind them that I'm not just this like talking head who's going around making orders, right? But at the end of the day, I don't like bossing the guys around. I don't like micromanaging them. I don't have cameras, like tracking their every move with AI. Like I just let them do their thing, and their tracking sheets will show the rest. So um, I think we need to give our employees a little bit of leniency, innocent till proven guilty. We
Yeah.
don't need to. So,
Yeah. I agree. Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you, Daniel, for coming on.
of course,
This has been
I'll ask
great.
you though,
Please.
because the wife's been bugging me,
Yeah.
and she's like, "You need to get back into this." And so I was looking at maybe it's really hard for me to do like a local physical training. And, I think at this point now most people know how to do a ceramic coating or PPF or tint. So I kind of really want to start working with businesses who are already kind of in it. And they're already doing multiple six figures, et cetera, and just try and help them get to that next level. Because I have a really good knack for looking at a business and figuring out where it can do better, how the business owner can do better, et cetera. If I was to start a coaching program and whatnot like that and put it online, what do you think are the things that you would want from it? Like, let's say you were to be a student, like
Mhm.
what's something that you feel like you're struggling with?
I'm going to be honest. First thing that comes to mind
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily knowing what needs to be done. It's doing it, and it's having the accountability partner.
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's
I was
it's
talking to
it's
a
yeah.
customer yesterday, who he's got a personal trainer, and I was like, "How's the training with Mike going?" And he's like, "It's good." And I was like, well, "What do you mean it's good?" And he's like, "Well, I think I could do everything that he's telling me, but he's like, at the end of the day, me paying him to do it, it requires me, then it makes me show up." So I think that's a big
Yeah.
part of, at least personally, it's like, I know I need better trackability in my business.
Right.
I know we need to work on sales for sure, but then also just
Mm-hmm.
having that like accountability partner, I think that's huge.
Yeah. Someone to kind of push and prod you through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, my wife is, she does like kind of like, she has an online business, and she's always hiring coaches and whatnot. I'm like, why do you keep hiring coaches? How many more coaches do you need? And she's like, it's not about the learning. It's about the accountability.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, that's interesting.
So
So,
true, man. Yeah.
yeah.
But I would love that. I think that there's a huge demand for that in this industry. Um, I think it's becoming more and more needed. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
I'd love
think,
to see you do that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think 2025, that was really it was kind of a spotlight on our businesses. And it was kind of really showing the people who, um, knew how to run a business and the people that just owned a business. There's a difference. There's the guy that like was really good at detailing, was working for another shop and is like, I could do this. And then he got the spotlight shown on him these last couple of years of like, oh shit, maybe I need to figure out how to actually run the business better. Why am I offering 20-30% discounts in the middle of summer? Something might be wrong, you know? So it's, I think we're kind of at this breaking point where the businesses that actually are operating like a real business are starting to pull away drastically
Yep.
from the guys that just know how to do a skill and open a business.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of people. There has been a lot of people, and will continue to be, that get out, that close their shop because
Mm-hmm.
it's just become, they've realized like how much work it is and how little money there is, and probably had a lot to do with the fact that they were doing discounts, but that they weren't running the business. The business was
Mm-hmm.
running them.
Yep. Eventually into the ground.
Yep. Well, cool, man. This has been great. I'll put your information all in the description for everyone. They can
Yeah.
go check
Awesome.
out So keep me
Very
updated too
cool.
on what you decide to do with the coaching thing.
Absolutely. It was great chatting with you, man.
Likewise. Yeah. And thanks everyone for listening.